Okay. Now we're looking at page 250, number 7. And again, it's talking about the chinchilla rabbits. So to understand that, if you go back a couple of pages to page 245, you will see that under the multiple alleles, right, they talk about the chinchilla. And you'll see the 4 different rabbits in the picture there at the bottom of the page. There's the agouti rabbit, the Himalayan, the chinchilla, and the albino. And they describe for you in the paragraph all the different genes, right? So the agouti, which is the sort of brownish rabbit, is the dominant allele, C. The Himalayan rabbit is C, little c, H, Himalayan. We don't really, yeah, okay, that'll work. And then we have the chinchilla rabbit, which is another little c, and they have CH, chinchilla. Okay? And then lastly, the albino rabbit. So this is kind of like the blood types, but there's a difference in the dominance pattern. So there's the albino. So what this means is that this is dominant, and these 3 are all recessive. So they'll be masked by the capital C, right? Now, there's a dominance order. So this is weird too. The dominance order. In this case, it goes like this. C is the most dominant. Then the little c with the CH, chinchilla, is the next dominant. And then that means little ch is the next dominant, and then C. So what that means is, when you look at the combinations, you have to look at this and see whichever one is further to the left. That's the more dominant, and that's what you will get. Okay? That's what you will get with the multiple alleles. Okay, so now we can go back to our question and see if we can figure out on page 250, number 7, what we're dealing with. Here we say a chinchilla is crossed with an albino. Okay, how do we make that work? Well, chinchilla is difficult to understand. There's more than one way you can be a chinchilla. You have to have at least one of these dominant chinchilla alleles. But you could have this one or the other one, because that one is more dominant than both of them. So you see how that works? That's how it would work. Now we're going to cross this with a chinchilla. We're going to cross it with an albino. So what can the albino be? Well, albino is the very last one, right? The little c. And it's the most recessive. So the only way you could get that is with 2 little c's. So we have 2 different possibilities here, right? But it does tell us that when you cross them, we get an albino. See how it says the chinchilla is crossed with an albino rabbit. Oh, my mistake. Sorry, the chinchilla is crossed with a Himalayan rabbit. So let's just cross that out. Sorry, I went too fast. And we have to just change that. A Himalayan rabbit, right? The Himalayan is the C with the single H. So there's 2 ways you can be Himalayan. You can have C single H and C single H, or C single H and albino, right? Because the C single H is more dominant right here than the albino. So those are the possible things. So now, let's look at this carefully. We're crossing a chinchilla, which has 2 options, and a Himalayan, which has 2 options. But there's a hint. The fact that the baby, when you cross them, the baby, one of the offspring, is an albino, tells us something very important that'll save us a lot of time. The offspring who's albino has to be this. That means he had to get one of these from mom and one of them from dad, right? So let's think about that. If mom or dad could be in the chinchilla, right? Let's look at these two right here. These two. Well, if mom, let's say that's mom. If mom has to give the little baby C, this can be the only possible genotype. This one doesn't have it, right? You have to get a little c from mom and a little c from dad. And the same thing here. If this is dad then and you have to get a little c, this is the only way you could get that little c from dad. This one doesn't have it. So we just figured out what the genotypes are for mom and dad. Mom is a chinchilla that looks like this, or with this genotype, and dad has to have this. So now we can do the cross and we can figure out the answer. We've done A. We've got part A done. That's the genotypes of the parents. How do we do the cross to see what other possible phenotypes this would be? Well, we cross the CCH little c with the CH little c. So we do CCH little c crossed with, well, those are both little c's, crossed with CH little c. Okay, let me just double check that we got, yeah, I think that's the right one. CH little c and CH little CCH. Good. So there's our mom and dad. What are the possible alleles? Or possible gametes? That one or that one? And over here, that one or that one. So we do our cross with the possible gametes. Mom is either this one or this one. And then this would be the other dad. It doesn't matter which one is mom or dad, right? As long as one of them is one and one is the other. Then we do our crosses. So C, CH, and CH. Here we have C, CH, and little c. Here we would have C, H, and little c, and here two little c's. Identify other phenotypes expected from this cross. So we already know that one of the children is albino. So we've already taken care of the albino one. They want to know what are the other ones. Well, here they are. C, CH, and CH, right? 1 out of 4. C, CH, little c, 1 out of 4. And CH, little c, 1 out of 4. Now, what would these phenotypes be, right? What would these phenotypes be? So let's go back. I'll redraw our dominance hierarchy that we looked up back on. It looks like this. This capital C, and then C, CH, and then CH, and then C. All right? So in the case of this one, the first one, the CH, which stands for chinchilla, is dominant over the CH, which stands for the Himalayan. So this one is chinchilla. This one is also chinchilla because this is dominant over the little c. So both of these are chinchilla. Right? Whichever one is dominant is the one that wins. And then over here, this one is Himalayan. So the phenotypes we would expect are 2 out of 4, 1 and 4 and 1 and 4, 2 out of 4 chinchilla, 1 out of 4 Himalayan, and of course we also know that there's 1 out of 4 albino. We didn't have to do that because the question already had told us that. But you see how these have to sort of add up to 4, right? 2, 3, 4. So there is the answer to part B. So again, what we had to do is a little bit of detective work. We started, well, first of all, you had to kind of find this in the textbook, so please make sure you're reading your textbook along with us, along with everything we're doing. And you had to get this box here to know the dominance. Then we had to sort of guess at the two possibilities for the mom and dad But then because they had an albino child, we could narrow them down. And once we narrowed them down, then we can do the cross and figure out all the different possibilities and use this again to figure out which phenotype would be the dominant one in each situation. That's number 7. Okay. Email me if you have any further questions.